o'clock, so that means it's 5. So we're doing what I call the floor pan weld flange. And really, it's finishing up the floor pan. And they're talking about that little bent strip along the side. Let me hide this guy for a second. Here's the original non-parametric body we were given. Okay. It's this flange. It's actually a planar strip that goes along the outside. It's on both sides. We call it the sill weld flange because that's where the sill information gets welded to the floor pan, or vice versa. Okay. And it's a little cumbersome just because it's tricky. It's actually just a flat piece of metal, but it's, you know, we have to make sure it's where it would be if we bent the original stock material and bent it down. And I can pick just that to show you what I'm talking about, just that little strip. And this is good because as a reminder, if I want to highlight just that one face, right, because NX right now it's trying to pick a feature, and the whole thing is one feature. But I want to just highlight that face along the strip. If I wait for the 3 dots, it says, well, here's what your cursor was on. It was on that body, it was also on a feature group, but it was also on a face. So if I click on that face, just that face is highlighted. Just a reminder, you know, that's something we talked about in NX1, but it makes it easier for me to show you what I'm talking about. That's what we're designing. We're adding that to the rest of the part. And I know I said it already, but it's a flat strip. What we're gonna do is start out with a slab that's the same location as that flat strip. We're just gonna overbuild it and then trim it back to the final shape, which basically means, you know, cut around this thing here, and these are relief notches right here. So it's, you know, you can almost think of it's a strip that's pretty much a constant thickness, but then there's a little relief notch in here, and there's a bigger relief notch in there, and those notches are there because, you know, for this part to get stamped, it's all one piece of metal, right? And that's a pretty complicated shape. These are flat, so that's not complicated. But if you stamp it and bend it right here, if this notch wasn't here and they tried to stamp this part to make this little wall, you know, just bend the outside down, this would probably wrinkle up here and it would probably tear down here. So that's what relief notches are for. And this is even a bigger area where they needed more relief in order to bend this whole piece of metal without this getting all torn up and wrinkled up there. All right, so anyway, we're doing that. What I like to do, and that's how we're gonna finish, by just trimming away. We're gonna build like the root surface that represents that little side strip. It's just a flat surface on both sides. We're gonna build that and then trim it, okay? I'll just show you, well, actually I'll do it in a couple minutes. I like to jump ahead sometimes before I start demonstrate the details about, well, here's what our goal is in this next few steps, right? I'll show you a couple things. So as you're doing these little steps that seem like they're a lot of little non-related things, there's a point to them all, right? But let me just get started first. So I'm gonna show my overall part again. Of course, I just showed my main shape, that feature group, and now that I'm saying this, one more thing. In my tree, and maybe some of yours, you might have got the same thing. I got this little blue symbol on this feature group with an eye in it, like an information. It's an information alert is what it's called. Information alerts are not necessarily errors. They're just giving you some information. Unfortunately, the only way to see what they say is you don't actually hover over it. Actually, no, you can't. No. They must have changed that in this version. You used to have to just make sure you hovered over the name next to it. But if I do hover over this, it says at least one member feature has an issue. Expand the feature group. So something in that feature group has an issue. And then I can see it happens to be where at the very last thing I made, which was that variable radius edge blend we made. Of course, now if I hover over that, it says patches have been created in some areas of tight curvature or complex geometry. Remember when I was demoing the variable fillet blend last week, variable edge blend. I think when I did it, and I know a lot of you, when you did it, certain areas, a little box would pop up when you typed in a radius, and it said patches are being created. That's just NX, or CAD software, a lot of CAD software does it. That's just the software saying, well, you know, there was 2 faces that were in the original part, but if you make this blend with that radius, those 2 faces are gonna get washed out, so we'll just change it and make a different patch. It's kinda like healing whatever the issue is. It fixes it for you, that's what that is. So it's not really a problem. If you don't wanna see those anymore, if you look at it and see what the problem is, okay, yeah, patches, that's fine, I know the system does it and I'll accept that. If you don't wanna see the alert anymore, if you right click in a neutral area, there's clear information alerts and there's also clear warning alerts. Warnings are little yellow, like yield signs, those are more problematic. Alerts are usually just, well, here's something that happened, just in case you wanna know. And if you don't care to see them anymore, you hit that and those blue things went away, right? So in case you had that on your tree and you wondered what that was, that's what it is. Now I wanna show you, I wanted to start by saying, well, here's what we did last time, here's where we left off, but when I showed that feature group, it showed everything in it. There's a lot of points and lines and planes and whatnot. Another thing I'd like to remind you of is a fast way to hide things that are all kind of the same type of geometry. You remember this? If you go to the View tab, there's a Show and Hide command, and it shows the different types of geometry, right? There's one that says all, you can hide everything in the whole part. There's one that says all the geometry, and that's pretty much what all it is. And then there's one that's all the bodies, all the curves, all the components, all the datums, all the planes, all the points, all those. You can do them individually or as a group of things. And I wanna hide, just because I don't need to see them right now, all the points. So right there, here's what I'll hide. I just hit all the points. Actually, I don't really need to see those planes anymore right now, so I'll hide those. And even the curves, I don't need those, right? So a real fast way of hiding everything of a certain type. It's not the only way to hide things, but if you know you wanna hide all of a certain type of geometry, that's where you do it. In the View tab under Show and Hide, okay? You might remember that, but I don't use it that often, so and I don't know if you do either, but it's good to be reminded that once in a while. Then, according to my instructions, it says, all right, open up the part, or open up the assembly, make sure the floor plan's the work part, and then update all the way to the end. It used to be called update to end, now it's called make last feature current, but if it already is, you won't even see that on there. Oh, I guess I can do this. If that was my current feature, and I wanted to make the whole tree active, it's called make last feature current. And even then, it's like, well, wait a minute, why is the current feature, which is bold, why is it way up there, main shape? Well, that's a feature group. The feature group is a result of everything in it, okay? The last feature in it was number 68, the feature group is number 69. That's my last feature in my history. So that's why that's bold. Okay, that's what make last feature current did. Now we're gonna make the sill weld flange itself. Remember we created this earlier in the main shape, and I guess I was gonna describe it like this. Our whole part so far, our whole floor pan, it was like, so far, 2 main chunks that we put together. We had the main slabs, which was kind of the flat, and then the footrest, and then the dash panel. We built those 3 and blended them together. Then separately, we made the tunnel as another chunk, and then we put those 2 together. Now we're gonna work on the 3rd chunk, which is called the sill weld flange, okay? It's actually not gonna consist of a lot. It's just gonna be a couple of slab surfaces that run right through that little strip, okay? The trickier part is gonna be trimming it, okay? We're gonna have to trim that. Not create a, well, I'll get to it. I'll see when I get to it. So, so we go to sill weld flange, and we make it active, right? Because the next thing I create, I want it to go in there. So it turns green, right? Everything after it is now kind of deactivated. So stuff that I had created before that, I don't see it. In fact, at that point in history, when the sill weld flange existed, when we created it, my tunnel was not combined with the rest of the parts. You have the 2 separate pieces again now. At that point, there was the main slabs in the tunnel. We didn't really put everything together until down here. But now that the tunnel's active, that down here is in the future. It didn't happen yet. It's not hurting anything. We're just trying to keep all of our 3 main chunks up in the same spot in the tree, and then after that is when we start combining everything. Yep.
How do you go about reordering your tree if you're not where I'm supposed to be, kind of thing?
You can drag and drop it.
Okay.
Sometimes it's tricky. Sometimes it gives you a hard time. I mean, you can't drag and drop things that have parents, for their children.
Mhm.
It shouldn't be that way, but sometimes you accidentally do that. Or, so you can drag and drop, but you can also right click on something, I mean, you could do it to a feature group or to just individual features. If you right click, there's reorder before. It knows, it's smart enough to know you can't reorder it after this things, but you can reorder it before this, right? It says you can order that before main slabs if you wanted to. All right, so you can right click and do a reorder before and then pick something, or just try to drag and drop it. If you are dragging and dropping, remember there's that little black line. So since you asked, I'll remind you of this. There's a little black line there where I'm trying to drag and drop something, right? As you move your cursor, that little black line can subtly change. Subtle, I think that's how you say it. Subtle, yeah. And see, now that black line is going beyond the edge of that folder up there, the feature group. But if I move down, now it's not, it just goes up to the folder and stops. That's two different things. If I let it go like this, that's gonna put whatever I drag, which is another feature group, it's gonna put it inside of the one that I'm looking at. If it looks like that, it's gonna put it after it, okay? If you wanna reorder things, now, it's already after it, so if I let it go right there, it's gonna be right where it is. If I try to put it inside, let's see what happens. Now see, there's some kind of dependency there. So, something in this feature group is tied to something in here, so it wouldn't let me put it inside there. Yeah. And I wouldn't have wanted to anyway, but anyway. If you're trying it and it's just not working, I can come look at it later.
Okay, no.
Sometimes there's ways to finagle things and get it to work. It is tricky though. You don't wanna kinda keep checking on it every time you make some things, make sure the order is right, cause it's a lot harder to reorder things after you make a lot of geometry. After it, subsequently, okay? That doesn't help you, but it's true. Alright, so, next thing we create is gonna go in this feature group that's currently empty called the sill weld flange. And really what we're trying to do is make those two slabs, like I said. A slab that represents that little strip there, and another one on the other side. So, here's what I wanted to say. Let me just jump ahead for a minute. The way we could do this a lot of different ways. When it's done, I will have two slabs like that picture, one on each side. Most of it's gonna go away. We're gonna have those slabs, and then just trim off the bottom so it's got those shapes with those relief notches in it. We're gonna take those two slabs and combine them with the rest of the floor pan, so it'll look like that when it's done. And that right there is the finished form of the floor pan. Okay? It's not the finished floor pan, it's the finished form. We have to trim it after we get the form done. So that's, you know, usually naming conventions and things like that, they'll call it something like that. The form is all the geometry that makes it up, including the overbuilt stuff. Then we add some trim and subtract whatever we're trying to trim away. So after I make the two sill weld flange slabs, we combine it to the rest of the floor pan, and it's gonna look like that. Then we gotta go through the trim part. So that's what these next steps are gonna be. I'll do them kind of quick, because it's not anything high tech, okay? We're gonna make a plane. Basically, the slabs are gonna be made by drawing a straight line, kind of like where this theoretical bend is right here, right? If that came across and that went straight up, there'd be an edge right there, right? We're gonna make a line right there. And this could be done multiple ways. The way we're gonna make a line is by intersecting a plane. So I'm gonna go here to the home tab, I'm gonna create a plane. It says for the next steps, hide all the sheet bodies. I guess I could, and I've only got a couple, so I'll hide this one. That one, just because I told you to, so I'm gonna do it. And then it says run a plane through that little slab, that slot or slab, whatever I want to call it. Can't even think of what I want to call it. So, you know, you can use inferred if you want, and you want to pick that face, you can pick that face. Of course, I have it on inferred, and for some reason, I had a distance on mine. I had an offset distance, I don't know why. Must be the last time I did one. And it also says make it non-parametric, okay? Create a non-associative datum plane. So turn off associativity. It says a fixed plane will be created. And of course, the picture makes it a little bit smaller. You don't have to, just if you want it to look like mine, I just made it a little bit smaller. And once again, the reason I made it non-associative is that whole theory about how we're designing this part. We're trying to make stuff that matches that gray body. Because that's something we had in our archives, the older version of the body. But it was non-parametric. We're trying to make something that exactly matches it, but after we're done, we can delete the original one. So if I wanna delete the original one, that gray one, after we're done, I can't have anything linked to it. So that's why that plane, yes, it's exactly where I need it, it's just not linked to that gray thing, right? I don't know if I really needed to say that or not, but I said it. Now I wanna make an intersection. And you know, we could make this more complicated than it needs to be. All I need is a straight line that really goes a little bit beyond the length of the part and extrude it upward, okay? Well, I can intersect this. I don't wanna intersect that with my main slabs. I'll show them again. That thing, because then my intersection will have a bend in it, right? And it's kinda hard to extrude that. I wanna go back, if I can, to the root geometry that if we had any that was flat, and we do have some, way back in an earlier exercise, I guess we haven't been doing this that long, there's an extracted body right after horizontal slab. Remember that guy? We made that before. Because the original horizontal slab got trimmed when we started making blends, so in NX, your root geometry does actually go away when you blend it to other things and trim it with other things. If you want to reuse the old geometry, you gotta actually track copies of it. Whereas CATIA doesn't make it go away, it just hides it. But that's not like one's better than the other, it's just two different ways to do it. So now I got a nice flat surface. I said I'm gonna show this fast, because you already know this, and I'm taking my time. We're gonna go to intersection curve. I'm just gonna intersect that slab with that plane, find this intersection curve, okay? Then we're going to extrude, and that showed up here in Sill Weld flange. I now have a dead-on plane and an intersection curve. It says fixed because it's non-associative. Okay. Then we're gonna extrude it. In the instructions, it's like a start distance of -100 and an end distance of 380, but it just says for the extrude of that intersection I just made. It does say -100, but it says for the top. It doesn't say exactly the number. I mean, it's in the picture, but I should say it this way. My instructions say, just ensure the top is nearly even with the front of the dash surface area. Okay, and actually now that I'm saying that, I forgot. I was supposed to hide, let me do that. I was supposed to hide the non-parametric and then show my last feature in main slabs. And then when I make this extrude, so -100, I'm overbuilding it a bit, so I've got enough left, and that's actually where remember the Sill Weld flange is actually gonna be down here below the part, so I need enough material down there. The top of it, all that really matters is, because we're gonna kind of blend it in a minute to this guy. To make it easier to blend it without making it look really funny, what I'm saying is drag it down so it's just about the same height as that little thing right there. It doesn't have to be exact, that's close enough. Right, that's what I'm trying to say in the instructions. The height of it, it's not critical, but make sure it's about the height of this. And maybe, if anything, make it a millimeter or two taller. Well, actually, now I'm looking at it from the side, I was off. So see how it's actually too short. I want it to go slightly above that. Again, the number is not critical, but it's better to be a little bit above it than below. So I'll see my new wall is a little bit above that original thing. And it doesn't tell you this, but I just looked at it, and I like to remind you of best practice, because I'm extruding a single open profile, it's just a straight line. NX is creating a sheet no matter what, but you should tell it it's gonna be a sheet, even if it's gonna be a sheet, you know, if it says solid, it's still gonna be a sheet because it's an open profile. But a good practice is to tell it to be a sheet, that way it'll always stay as a sheet, even if I somehow or other made that line get closed. That wasn't very good grammar, but anyway. So now that I've got that, again, when we're all said and done with this, the weld flange is just gonna be a little strip based on the bottom of this, working its way around. All this stuff on the top is gonna go away. Now we need one on the other side. It's gonna be exactly the same as this one. I could go through the same steps, or you could say, let's just go to the More button, go to Mirror Geometry, and it does say create mirror geometry. My picture here says mirror geometry, not mirror feature. Mirror feature would work. Mirror geometry also works. Mirror geometry is actually simpler, keeps the model size a little bit smaller. Mirror geometry takes things like sheet bodies, right? See, it's picking a sheet body. That's what NX calls geometry. A feature would be the extrude, which is in turn made of a sheet body. So it just keeps it a little simpler. And there's more to it than that, but I'm just gonna mirror that across the ZX plane, because our part, the sides of our part are symmetrical about the ZX plane. The tunnel's kind of crooked in there, it's not exactly symmetrical, but the two sides are, so the two weld flanges will be, okay? And actually, I think I was supposed to name the previous one. I was supposed to name the extrude, right side sill weld flange, or RS. Swill. Sill weld flange. And then this one is left side, I think, pretty sure. Left side sill weld flange. The mirror is the left side. I could have actually copied and pasted. You guys like watching me type, because I'm so bad. And I'm talking while I'm typing, that makes it worse. All right, okay? We got those two. Now we're gonna actually blend it, like I said, we're really almost done with the sill weld flange. We just have to blend those two chunks to the part, so that all that's left is our floor pan comes out like this, and then it goes down like that, on both sides, okay? So it's gonna be a radius. But that radius is gonna be kind of an important one, and we're gonna maybe want to adjust it depending on other specifications. We're not gonna do that in the class, but we're saying it is, right? So we're gonna make an expression. I don't know, did we do any expressions yet in this class? I don't remember if we did or not. I'm simply gonna go, it tells you, go to Tools Expressions. Remember, by default, when you go into Tools Expressions, it's creating a new one. There's a field up on the top. Let's wait for you to type. And it says, type in bend radius sill weld flange. And I don't know if you heard me saying it earlier. You can't have spaces, it'll tell you it's invalid syntax. So instead of spaces, I'm doing underscores. And space. It doesn't have to be underscores, but it can't be a space, so. I think most times I've ever seen it typed in, people put underscores. And so there's the name of it. I'm just gonna click on the formula field. The formula is just gonna be 4. So our starting radius for where that little flange is gonna be bending around from the top of the floor pan is 4 mils, okay? We create our own here, we typed it in, we gave it a name. The rest of these are system parameters or system expressions. We're making our own. When you make your own, it's called a user expression. And when you make a user expression, up at the top of the tree, there's a new folder that shows up called user expressions. Only the user ones show up in that, but there it is. Now it's not doing anything, it's just there, right? I mean, I can double click and edit it if I want, but I'm not going to. But it's there and I can make use of it. Now, it says, let's see, okay. It says, because I want to, we've got, actually, that now I'm thinking of this, that is our weld flange surface. I mean, our sill weld flange surfaces, that's it. We're done with the sill weld flange. It's that slab and that slab. But we're treating it like the other things we do. Remember I said there's 3 chunks. There's the main shape, there's the tunnel, and there's the sill weld flange. They're all in their own little folders. The next thing, everything after those 3 folders is putting those things together. So it says, go here to make the last feature current again. Then it says, well, I want to put it next in line at the bottom of the tree. So it says make the main shape active. It's current, but it's not active. Okay, what does that mean? Remember that? Current means it's bold. That means whatever I create will go after that. But I don't want it to go after it. That means it'll be here by itself after the main shape. I want it in the main shape, because the main shape is our 3 chunks put together. So we have to make that active. Okay. Maybe I'm spending more time than I need to on these, but I don't know, I guess it's helpful. So the edge blend is now the current feature. So whatever I create is gonna go right after that, which is what I want, which is a couple more blends. It's gonna be face blends. And it doesn't really matter which side I start with in my instructions. I'm gonna go up. Remember, there's a face blend under the home tab behind edge blend, or it's also by itself in surface tab. And we always want to use body faces unless otherwise specified. Whenever it says select face, try to use body faces. Be careful here, because I'm going to pick as my first set the main slabs, okay? or the main body, I should say, because at this point, I'll say this, at this point, now where I'm at in the tree, I am at the point where we did put together the tunnel and the park. This is the last thing we're adding. So here now you can see I do see that everything's blended together. We're just adding these to the end. So anyway, after all that, I'm gonna pick the main shape, okay? Some of you, I saw you were picking that original slab down there. Don't pick that. We wanna blend this wall to the entire main shape. So, and it is, you gotta think about the arrow. I'm exaggerating here, but it's going like this. It's coming down, it's coming across and going down. So it's going down from the floor pan. Well, if you translate that up this way, that means it's going out that way. So that arrow's correct. For the second face, it's this, I'm doing the right side first. And I had 1,000 radius in there for some reason, because of the last thing I made. So it says the radius is too large. Yeah, I know, I'm not gonna leave it at 1,000. But anyway, if I want the blend in here, inside here, so that arrow's going the right way, so is the other one. For the radius, it says, go to the little arrow here, go to formula. And right here is the bend radius sill weld flange expression with the name. And I tell you to carefully double click it. And yeah, you can do that, right? And the reason I say carefully is the formula field for my parameter I'm creating right now, this is the radius of the fillet. That's its formula. What do you want in there instead of just a number? I want this one. And you have to double click and see, I did it then. If you double click too slow, it doesn't put it in there. And if you click on things, it's not ready for you to type in sometimes, but I say that, but it's easier. Let's say, let me cancel that. Let's say I didn't do that. Let me go back in there. Formula. Instead of double clicking, I think I showed you this before. When that field is blue, edit mode, if you know what the name of the parameter starts with, like the letter B, type it in. And anything, there might be a lot of things with the letter B, but anything that starts with B, it's like a dynamic search. There's only one thing, and I don't even have to type it anymore. It already found it. So you can click on it right there. And if you hit OK, it plugs it in here, okay? But there's even an easier way to do it. And I'm saying it to you because I don't tell you this in the instructions, just as a reminder of when you want to use expressions. I'll actually clear that. And let's go some other number, let's say. So let's say the default was 10, okay? And I want it to be the bend radius sill weld flange. You don't even have to go to the equal formula here. You don't have to bring up the expression window. Right here, you can start typing something that you know the expression starts with. I know it's the letter B. And even that, see? And now some things, there's a lot of things that start with the letter C. So if you have an expression that starts with the letter C, you gotta type more in before it narrows it down. But in this case, the only thing with the letter B related to expressions is that one that we made. And it plugs it in right away, okay? It's kind of weird because I know it's 4, we know it's 4. It doesn't show it, when you type it in like I just did, it doesn't show the 4 yet until, I think if I do a show result and then undo it, yeah, then it shows the 4. It is 4. You know it's tied to an expression or it's tied to something because it's kind of gray and there's an equal sign there, right? And you can kind of see there's already a preview. I'm gonna hit OK. And there it is. So that chopped off all that excess of the slab that was up there. We didn't need that. All we got left is the slab that we need to make our actual flange where those little relief cutouts were. Of course, while we're at it, we'll just do the other side. That's another face blend. I can do this one faster. I'll start with the overall part I have. And actually, the nice thing is, when you use an expression in something like face blend or extrude, the next time you go into it, it remembers that expression. So it's still there. I don't even have to search for it. So I just go, okay. Of course, the next time I use it, it's still gonna have that expression, but I'll have to change it if I'm doing something different. Now you might look at that and go, well, why do you got extra material there? That's because I still have that extraction of the horizontal body, horizontal slab. So that right there is our overall form of our part before we trim it. So I have you rename that. Final form before trim. Okay, I missed a space there, but I don't care. You should care, but I don't care. Now it says, make the last feature current, which is again gonna make the feature group, the main shape feature group, correct? Okay. Then it says, our old friend here, create new feature group called perimeter trim with 4 groups inside of it. Okay. So if you recall, I put feature group right there. So at the top level, I'm gonna put in perimeter trim, and apply, adds it after the main shape, because the main shape's at the top level too, so perimeter trim is right after it. And then I'm gonna do the 3 in there. I'll just abbreviate. Outside perimeter trim, but I want it inside of perimeter trim. I'll apply so the window stays up. You can look and see that they're popping up in there. This will be LS. And you could copy and paste here too if you wanted to. And you just change one of them. Oops, I forgot to change it to the top level. Let's see, you know what? Let's see if I can do this. If I grab this, I need to reorder it. It should have been inside of perimeter trim. If I grab it, I could do that, but if I put it right on top, if you put a feature group on top of another feature group, it does put it inside, it puts it as the last thing. So in that case, there's no problem, it did it easily. It's not always that easy, but I do need 2 more. Why else you use such a long word, perimeter? Okay, this should be in perimeter trim. Rear. That also should be in perimeter trim. All right. So I made some feature groups. Okay. Now we're gonna work on the right side perimeter trim. So I wanna make it accurate. Okay. Here's another one of those things. I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit. It does say, look here, drag and copy. Oh. I'm gonna, that trim piece we're gonna use, let me show you this. We're actually gonna make, again, I'm showing you this so that while we're doing all this little busy work, why are we doing it, right? We're gonna make a strip, kinda looks like that, this little strip of material there. That's that front relief cutout. So there's a little strip, and where that strip is, it's right at the bottom of the non-parametric flange. So that's how we're gonna trim away the excess. There, and it goes all the way across, down here, all the way across. It's like a strip on this side, and then there's another strip on that side, which if we trim that big slab with those 2 strips, then we have the bottom of our flange, okay? Now, I'm gonna say this right now. Some students asked me in the last time we did it, because it is a weird way to do it. Why do you make a little strip here and a little strip there? Why don't you make one shape for the bottom edge and extrude it all the way across, then you can trim both sides at once. And actually, when they asked that question, I was like, I'm not sure. I don't know why that was done this way, because I didn't create this class, I took it from somebody else. And I'm not trying to blame anybody, but I tried it just on my own. What if I just do one side? I mean, it's not a big deal, but if you just do one side and extrude all the way across, it works, you can use it to trim it. It's not gonna really make it longer or shorter, it's just, I don't know, just in case you're thinking about, why do we have these 2 little strips, right? Anyway, we're gonna make 2 little strips that match the bottom, and then use those to trim those excess material slabs, right? So let me scroll back up for a second. And most of it's gonna be done with sketches, okay? But again, I'm gonna temporarily show the body, which is there. So good. And most of this is gonna be curves. So I need a curve that represents that bottom edge. Well, the very bottom edge is just gonna be an offset curve. In here, we're actually gonna make a sketch to represent that. Okay. And the same thing up in the front here. We're gonna make a sketch to make this little cutout area. So the bottom edge is gonna be an offset curve. Then we're gonna come over here and actually that's gonna be, well, there's gonna be like a sketch in there. So we're making a bunch of geometry that's gonna fit right on there. But I want the sketch to be on more of a root. Oh, well, I want the sketch based on an intersection, because the offset here, the offset curve for the bottom edge, I want to offset one curve that goes all the way up like this. So in other words, I'm going to have a curve here at the theoretical intersection and offset it down to make that edge, Over here, it's gonna be at the theoretical and offset it down to make that edge. I need a curve that's right at the theoretical of all this, okay? So the way we're gonna do it, if you don't know what I mean by that, the next step will show you what I mean, all right? So it says, we need a copy of the main slabs, when we had the main slabs of 3 pieces. I'm actually gonna hide that body for a second. The main slabs, actually, the main slabs were down here. There was, I think I didn't name it. I was supposed to name that. Main slabs defined. I didn't name that. There's one called main slabs defined. Well, I guess I'll do it. Since you have to do it, I'll do it. Now that I said that, Regina, you didn't name yours either. And I didn't. I was talking about, you're supposed to rename that, and I didn't rename mine. So anyway, but right now the main slab is defined. It's been trimmed because it's joined with everything else. I need a copy of it before it was trimmed. Again, if you don't know why I'm doing this, you'll see once I get it done. Remember, you can go to that feature, extract body here. It temporarily makes that active so it can create it, and there it is. It makes a new copy. That's like, if it was CATIA, I would have just had to go and show that. But in NX, you gotta actually make a copy, okay? And why? Because that's a nice, straightforward piece, and I can intersect it with something. I can intersect it with, and I'm gonna name that, copy of main slabs for trim. Long names here. Okay? And then I'm gonna actually intersect that. That's my nice clean main slab. In fact, I'll hide that for right now. So that's what I just brought out. Why is that showing? I need that. So I'm gonna intersect that with, remember the slab we made for the right side before I trimmed it? Well, that slab got trimmed away. That was in the sill weld flange. That was the right side sill weld flange. If I try to show it, it brings up the whole thing because it's joined with everything else. I need a copy of it. Same thing. Right click on it, extract body here. It makes a copy before it was trimmed. I'm gonna rename that. Copy of right side, you know what? And just to show you that you can do this, if I go here to rename, I can do a Control C. Then I can go here to rename, do Control V, and then just change or add to it or whatever you gotta do. That's faster than typing or not, but, okay? So I can only do that. So again, why did I do that? Here's why. Again, eventually you'll see why. I'm gonna hide that other intersection. I'm gonna intersect those two curves. Okay? Curve, intersection curve. I'm sorry, I'm gonna intersect those two sheet bodies. That one, and you always have it on body faces unless otherwise corrected. And there, now I have a nice starting curve that I can offset to make the bottom of the flange. Offset it outward and downward, okay? Now it says, hide the extracted copy of main slabs for trim, okay? And show I'm gonna keep this up because I'm gonna make a sketch down here. I'm also gonna do some offsetting down here. So I have a nice flat surface to work on for those things. But it says, show the original non-parametric input body. That's this guy. And remember I was having that issue last week with making things translucent? Because in my instructions it says, use edit object display to make the copy of the right side flange for trim translucent. Mine already is. That's because everything's translucent in mine, because I thought I figured it out on my laptop. How you can make one sheet body translucent and not the other ones. Well, for some reason on this computer, there must be a different setting that I haven't found yet. I'm still gonna have to figure it out. When I make something translucent, all the sheet bodies become translucent. That works, but it's not exactly what I want you to do in the instructions. In other words, I need to be able to see through this guy so I can see that notch, right? Because I'm gonna be drawing stuff on this flat. It makes it a lot easier if I can see what I'm trying to mimic when I'm drawing it, all right? So anyway, we're going to, let me see what order I have you do it. Create offset phase, downward direction. All right, so we're gonna create another, we're not really gonna create a user expression. I'm gonna create an offset, and I'm gonna add an expression to it, add a formula to it. So I'm gonna do an offset of that intersection I just made on this surface, right? So here is offset curve and face. Or it's called offset and face now, it used to be called offset curve and face. Offset and face, constant offset. The curve is gonna be the intersection I just made, and once again, that intersection is basically the theoretical where that bend is. Right? Where this little flat meets that flat, that's the theoretical intersection. So from there, I wanna offset it, and ultimately I'm gonna offset this guy once to get to the bottom edge, but we're not doing that right now. It's gonna be a little weird, right? First thing I do. I'm gonna offset it downward. What I'm trying to do is make that V shape right here, okay? And the way we're gonna make the V shape is by defining, this is a circle right here. I wanna make something that defines the middle of that circle, okay? The middle of that circle is basically the radius of that circle, but we're coming from up here, okay? So I'm gonna offset this down. I need to offset it down by whatever that is, and that's actually that radius we use, the 4 mil bend radius, plus whatever that material is right there, plus the radius of the circle. You're going, what? I'll show you. I'm gonna go here, the formula, and I wanna come down, like I said, the bend radius, and again, I can just type it instead of trying to double click. Bend radius of the sill weld flange, it tells you to do this in the instructions, plus 3. I could have had you measure all this yourself, but I just said, no, I'll just tell you what it is. Plus 10. Plus 3 plus 10, and yes, you could have done plus 13, but that way you can just sort of visually see it better. So what is this? Bend radius, weld flange, plus 3 plus 10. What does that get me? I'm gonna hit OK. And the reason it's not previewing yet, because when you offset a curve, you gotta tell it on a face or a plane, and I haven't picked the face yet, and it's this big slab. Once I do that, there's my offset, and you can sort of tell. It's coming from that theoretical bend, or theoretical edge. The bend radius brings it down to here. The 3 brings it down to there, because I measured it. And then that circle's a 10 mil radius circle. So that's 10. So that puts it in the center. If you think of that as a circle, right there is the middle of the circle. Whether you see that or not, that's what we're doing, okay? So that's the offset curve. Why do we worry so much about that? Well, now we're gonna make the sketch. And I'm gonna make a sketch for that notch. It's gonna look like this. Now, when you're doing this, if you haven't already done this, you gotta read it kind of slowly. I had a hard time coming up with the wording to make you understand what I was trying to say. So I'm gonna start with a line like this, a reference line in Sketcher, right? It's not really part of the profile, but it's a line. And it's referenced so I can see it and work with it. It just won't be extracted. And that line it says here, it's through the midpoint of the offset arc and perpendicular to that arc. Okay, what do I mean by offset arc? This is an offset. This part of it, offset down here to make this is the piece of it. Piece of my offset is an arc right here, and that arc has a midpoint. So in other words, make sure I read this right here, sketch, did I make my sketch yet? No, I didn't make it, so I'm gonna go to Sketcher. I'm gonna pick this face, and since somebody asked me this before, you know, it really, in this case, it really doesn't matter how it lines up the sketch, the way you're looking at it, because if you look right now, see how that blue vector is pointing away from me, if I pick that face? Right, that means it's gonna flip the sketch the other way, so I'm gonna be looking at it from the other side when I go into Sketcher. If that matters to you, if you pick the face, you can open this up before I hit OK. And I can see the blue arrow is kind of, what are you facing? What's facing you? It's going that way. So I can reverse it, that's the planar face. I can reverse it, now it's pointing at me. Of course, now that I did that, the horizontal is going to the left and the vertical is going down. That's kind of backwards than what I wanted. In my mind, I want the sketch to look like this way. So the blue's pointing at me, but I want the horizontal to go that way. Well, you can also reverse the horizontal. So now it's all going the right way. You don't have to do that. But since I did, when I hit OK, then it doesn't really rotate on me. If I didn't flip those arrows, it would probably have been looking at it like this. It's still the same plane, which is still okay, but if you want it to look like that, you can always manipulate that. You can do that after the fact too, you can change the orientation. So now I'm in Sketcher, okay? And then, like I said, I want to make a line. So I'm gonna go to the line command, and I'm just gonna sort of draw it somewhere near it. And it doesn't even tell you the lengths of it, it just basically says match that. So it's a little bit above that theoretical. What's important down here is everything's below the bottom edge of the flange. I don't tell you how far to make those lines, it just says match the image approximately as shown. So for that line, I'm just gonna do something like this here. And I'm not trying to line up with anything particular yet, maybe right there, okay? So hopefully I didn't make any constraint. There's my line. I will make it a reference line. By default, it's a active line, so if you click on it, that's reference. You can also right click. So there it is, a reference line. I want that line to be, this is the arc I was talking about. See how that's an arc? That's a piece of the offset, but it's the arc piece of it. And what I was trying to say is, I want to pick the point right in the middle of that arc and this line, right? And in NX, in Sketcher, when you pick a line and a point, it proposes a point on curve, and that's what I want. So now that line that I made, it's running right through that. See, I can still move it, but it's running through the middle of that guy. But then I also say, you know what, there's a point on curve there, but I also want this line to be perpendicular to that. So you can actually pick, I think I told you, yeah, you can actually pick the curve, but remember, if it's a true arc, right there is a point, which is really the center of it. Wherever it is, it's way up there somewhere. That's the center of the arc. If it's red, it's the arc itself. So make sure it's red, pick the arc, and then pick the line. It's proposing things like perpendicular. And that's what I want. So that's what I was trying to say in these pictures. Okay, if you're having a hard time figuring out what did I mean by that, just ask me. Okay. So there's that. And that line is kind of a starting point now. That's perpendicular. So that line, the length of it is not defined, but we don't care as long as it's long enough. Right? Then I'm going to draw the rest of the profile, which I'll show you quick. That green thing, that's the profile. It's like an upside down V. So how do you draw it? Go with the profile tool. And a good habit is don't draw it right on top of things because it might constrain stuff you didn't really want to. So I'll start down here and I'll come up close, maybe something like that. Then I'll come around this way, make sure I'm not really creating anything. And I want it to be tangent where the line meets the edge. Where the line and the arc meet, I want tangencies, and that's it. I made the profile. Now I just gotta line everything up. That arc I made, I want it to sit on that point. So I can do this. Now that's 2 points. Okay, so that's the midpoint of that arc and the center of my new arc. That's a coincidence. Okay, so those are lined up. What do I tell you to do for the angle? I just gave you the radius. I mean the angle. The angle of these are 30. I mean, you could try to measure stuff. I didn't have you do that. And the radius, I even tell you, it's 10. Okay. I should have known it was 10 because remember when I said we were coming down a certain distance and we came down by the radius? I said bend radius plus 3 plus 10 because that was the radius. So that's the 10. So for the radius, I got radius up here in my ribbon. That's supposed to be 10 exactly. When I drew it, I drew it at 10.3. That's pretty close. Made exactly 10, it looks like that. Then we got a couple of angle dimensions from there to that line. And that's supposed to be 30. And that should line it right up. If you zoom in really close, it might not look exactly like it's on, but that should be 30. And that's it. That's our sketch. Okay. Yeah, it's a little longer there than it is there. It's okay. And you could, if you really care, you can move it back, but it's not. As long as they're both beyond the bottom of that, of the actual flange, we're good, all right? And everything turned green there when I was in my dimensions, so that means that's all constrained. That's a good thing. It does say it needs constraints because the lengths of those are not defined and the lengths of that are not defined. But again, I don't care, as long as they're more than enough, okay? So that's the first sketch, and we're supposed to name that. And remember to name a sketch, I wanted to call it small notch sketch. To name sketches, we don't use rename, we go up here. Small notch sketch. It always makes it uppercase, and when you finish, there's the name. Okay. So, we're getting there. I don't have that much more to do. Well, you'll see. Now it says, hide that one. Oh, I'm sorry, it's saying hide this offset, which I was also supposed to name. Relief, notch, centerline, setup. I'll name it later. Believe me. Maybe I won't. Hide that one, because we're done with that offset. That offset was just for this notch, because we had to get in the middle of it there. The next offset we're gonna make will be for this edge right here. So it says we're gonna offset it, on the same flat surface, an offset in face on the same flat surface, and we're gonna do the offset value, it's just gonna be the bend radius plus 3. So similar to what I did on the other side, I'll show you. Gonna go to curve, offset in face, that same theoretical I started with before, and you know, I can pick the face right now or after it, but for the value, it's going the wrong way. For the value here, I'm gonna go into the formula window, and again, it should be bend radius, so I'll just start by typing in B. But it's just plus 3 this time, because we're not going to the center of a radius, we're just going to that, where the flange, where that part of the flange, the relief cutout, where it exists. So if I hit OK, see it's offsetting it to here, that's the edge of that larger relief cutout, right there, okay? Now, I will name this one just because I told you to name the other one. I was too lazy to name the other one. This is front notch setup. I mean, you can see, we don't name everything, but certain things that you might wanna have to come and adjust later, it's easier if they're not like 6 offsetted faces with numbers. If they have a name, it makes it easier. Now we're gonna make another sketch on this. Same face. Sketch on here. Still wants to do the backwards thing, so I'm gonna reverse that one and reverse this one. I'll hit OK. This time, we're gonna do something like this. I'm gonna make 2 lines here, and again, you gotta sort of read what I'm trying to tell you here, so I'll show you. Right? That offset I made, I wanna make a line over here somewhere. That offset is made of pieces. So, right there is one of the pieces. And I'm calling that the arc, on the front notch setup arc, that's the arc. Because here, over here is a line. Over there's a line, but in between them is an arc. And that arc ends at a certain spot, okay? It says create a line that runs through the end of that arc, and, what did I say, yeah, make it perpendicular. Let me read my instructions to make sure. Also be perpendicular, yeah. So I'm gonna make a line like I did before. I'll just roughly draw it like the picture, somewhere like that, okay? I will select it, make a reference. I will say, let's take that line. In this case, it's the end of that arc right there. See that? That's the end of that arc. I hesitated, but if I go to, make sure I pick the right one. End point of the arc, yep. And of course, now that I did that, it's not, because I had to move my cursor way over there, I don't have the little helper window, so I'm gonna start over. I'm gonna pick it faster this time. That line, and that edge, that point I should say, that end point, and I can do a point on curve. So I want it right there, but I also want it perpendicular to that arc. So if I pick the arc, the red, then the line is perpendicular. And let's see your reference. Yep, that's everything for that one. So, and yes, I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. But then, you know, what I'm trying to do is make my sketch profile that matches this, goes around that curve and then goes across there and goes to the other side. So I'm gonna make a line, starting from the same point. This will be a real line. I'll just draw it above it again like this, like so. Okay. I will, this is not gonna be a reference line. Stick it on there. If I'm doing this fast and you're not really grasping what I'm doing, I can show you later. You know, the assumption is, well, this is Sketcher, we know Sketcher, okay? So, there's the line, I needed a certain angle. It tells you it's 30 degrees, okay, let's make it 30. 30 degrees from my reference line that I made, which lines it right up with the edge of that trim, that notch relief cut up there, okay? So there's that side. Says to do basically the same thing on the other side. So let's go faster. Line. This is gonna be the reference line, something like this. And actually remember the commands don't turn themselves off, they're still trying to make another line. You can't make something reference if it's trying to make a line. So then I say, let's take that line and the end of the arc on this side right there. Oh, I moved my cursor. The shortcut windows, remember, they disappear if you move your cursor. Or if you have to hesitate and see if I can move this over here. Yeah, that might be it. Okay? And that's also 30 degree, oh, no, I'm sorry, I gotta make the other line. This one's gotta be perpendicular, so that line and that arc, perpendicular. Now we make another line, close, oops, see that, I accidentally made a tangency right there, I don't want that. If I click on that, I'm gonna start over. Just gonna draw a line not tied to anything. That's better. Okay. Although I did do something there, I'm not sure what that is. But if you do see blue things pop up, like there's some sort of a constraint or something, well, I don't think it created anything, it just, it looks like it was pointing to it, I don't think it created anything, so. I'll find out when I try to make an angle on here. If I go to angle, between these two, that's 30, that's what I told you. Oops, and I forgot to put the line. It's okay that I forgot, it doesn't have to do it in a certain order. Line in that, make it point on curve. Yeah, you know what, it does have something else there. You know what, I'm gonna use this opportunity to show you something. It's telling me I'm over constrained with that last one. And I do see something right there. If I hover over it, I see something red. Try to see if there's a constraint. No, it doesn't show me anything.
You had a coincident constraint, it's the fourth item.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, all right, so there is one. What I was gonna say is that's one way to find it, but I just wanna introduce something to you. I don't know if I showed you this in other classes before, this is just a good thing to know. I know it makes the demo longer, but you like that. If you go into your constraint stuff here, behind the last one, there's something called the constraints browser for whatever sketch you're in. And you can look at the geometry or the constraints. And it says you got an angular dimension, and you can click on these and it highlights. Yeah, that one I know I wanted that. There's another angle, yes, I wanted that. And here's a coincident one. And this is the hard thing to tell. When you're selecting them here, it's orange, okay? So even with this, it's kind of hard to see it, but watch, if I pick something else. See there, that's a perpendicular, right over here, that turned orange. There's the other perpendicular, that's good. Then I got a couple of point on curves, see how that's orange? This side is hard to see because it's over constrained, but that coincident is right there, okay? This, just so you know, this thing called Relations Browser, or I'm sorry, used to be called this, called Sketch Constraints Browser. It could be really handy if you got a pretty complicated sketch, and you got something there that's not, it just seems like it's over constrained. Why? I know I did it right. Sometimes there's little things in there, this makes it a lot easier to find it, just FYI. And you can also delete them from here, I can just say, well, then delete that. And that fixed everything, okay? Just something that's good to know. The last thing I need though, well, actually two more things, is in the sketch, I want the whole notch relief to be in the sketch. So I want it to come up like this, little bend, and then come around there. Well, I don't have that big piece yet. Remember in Sketcher, that's not in my sketch. That big piece, that curve, that's an offset, wireframe. Well, you can project that here into your sketch. In Sketcher, there is a project. Probably right here somewhere, I just don't see it. Oh, there it is, that's right. NX2212, they moved it into its own little guy right here. Project curve. You wanna be careful with this though, because there's a curve selection rule. If it's on infer curves, it means it's gonna guess what you want. It thinks I want the whole offset, but I don't. I want one piece of it. So I have to change it to single curve. Pick just that little piece, just hit okay. Okay. In this version, it makes it kind of purple, but that's just saying it's coming from somewhere else. That's not an issue, right? So I got that. And then I'm gonna close it off by saying, well, I want my sketch to show, comes up this way, and then it comes along here, there's a little fillet there, and then it joins this. So inside of Sketcher, you also have fillet. And what do I tell you it is? It says 10 mil corners, so from here to there, right? Proposing one of the 4 quadrants. I'll put it right about there. It wasn't exact. I'm gonna put a radius on it, then I'll do another one while I'm in a fillet creating mode. I'll do this one. And then I'll turn off fillet and I'll go to radial dimension. that will be a 10. And that will be a 10. Come on, I think. Oh, I didn't place it, I gotta place it first. Right, and if you looked at it close, my green sketch stuff is following that edge of the cutout, or the notch relief. It's following that little blended part, and then it's following the whole underside there. It's exactly on there. And it's overbuilt a little bit that way. As long as it's overbuilt, just beyond the edge, we're good. Okay. Then it says, oh, now I gotta do one more thing. Finish the sketch. Oh, no, I'm sorry, rename it. Front notch sketch. I figured it was on the wrong keys. Okay, front notch sketch. Finish it. Okay. We need one more thing to finish our trimming. We need something that represents the bottom edge here, okay? And the bottom edge there is just another offset of our theoretical right there. I'll hide this one. That's one I just used, but now I want to make one more offset, and it says the formula will be bend radius, so weld flange plus 18. Well, again, I measured it, so it's basically from there. This is 18. That width of that flange. So if I do an offset in face, that intersection we made a long time ago, on that face, the formula will be bend radius, which is 4, plus 18, which should take us right to the bottom edge of the flange, right there, okay? All right, so that's what all that work was for. That's probably the most cumbersome part of the exercise, all that little stuff. Because there's, you know, the pictures are, you gotta sort of interpret what my words are saying. That's why I tried to show it to you. I don't know if that helped, but anyway. Now here's the part where I said, you know, some people will ask me, why are you only doing a little strip? But it says make an extrude. And by the way, everything I'm doing is in perimeter trim. Right, the last bunch of things I did. So if I go to home tab, here's extrude. Okay, I'm gonna set that to sheet just because I meant to tell you that. It says go 10 mils in both directions from that sketch, okay? And you should have it set to feature curves. I'll pick that sketch, it's going 100 in each. I'm gonna do -10 and 10. So it's cutting through where we know there's, I mean, that's a part of that strip that I keep talking about, right? Yes, if I were redoing this exercise, I would make it go all the way across to the other side, because we're gonna have to trim it on that side too. But you'll see what we do. It's kind of weird, but it is what it is. So there's that first one. I made a little extrude. Okay. I don't think I named that. No. And it says make another extrude of this other sketch. Okay, same values. That sketch. It's going 10 in both directions. Funny looking thing. Okay. Then it says make another extrude at the very bottom, that last offsetting curve I made. This guy. Okay. 10 in both directions. Very simple, very simple. Now I gotta put all these little pieces together, because right now, I got that slab's going all the way through, plus I got that right there. So I tell you to, let's do a trim and extend, make corner. Remember that? Go to surface, trim and extend. And this could be done different ways, because ultimately I need this to be blended right here, because this right here is the bottom of the actual flange. So there is a little rounded thing here. But if we do a trim and extend, make corner, it just says, let's take, I should probably hide this guy. I'm gonna hide this guy for right now. We do trim and extend, make corner, that trims two things together and puts a hard edge between them. And I say, let's take this and use body faces. Let's trim that where it meets this guy, okay? And I wanna keep, it's not previewing it very well. Let me hit preview. I don't want to keep the inside of that and the bottom of that. I got to flip those around. I want to keep the outside, or the top of this and the outside of that. I think I have to flip them both. Yeah, that looks better. See? So I did trim and extend. It just trim these two where they meet on both sides and join them together. Right, then we're gonna do another one over here, do the same thing. Okay, yep. So I'm gonna take what I just finished. I guess I gotta hit okay and do it again, trim and extend. Make sure that's still there, yep. That guy, which is the entire piece with one little notch in it. To that, I'm gonna do the make corner with this other piece. That one needs to go the other way, I think. That one needs to go that way, I think. Yep, there it is. So now I have that long strip. All that work was just to make that little strip on the bottom. It's horizontal, mostly. And if I use that to slice off the bottom of that slab, I'm gonna be left with those notches on my perimeter trim area, right? Of course, actually, I'm not done with it, because I'm supposed to put I'm supposed to round it off like I just said, right? Here's a hard edge, but I gotta max that. So it's a 3 mil face blend, or I'm sorry, edge blend, because those are edges. And then if there's 4 edges, I can do it all at once. That one, I'll make it 3 right now while I'm at it. One there, one there, there, and one there, okay? There we go, so now I got that. Now here's the part too, like I was saying. I would have extruded all the way across if I was starting this from scratch. But in the instructions, it says, you got this side, do a, I'm sorry, I gotta name that guy. Right side perimeter trim defined. Okay. This time I'll think ahead and I'll copy it. And then it says, let's just mirror that across the ZX plane to use it on the other side. Okay, so that was the way they did it, whoever created this exercise. They mirrored it, mirror geometry, just like we did before. So if I go to home, go behind the more button here, mirror geometry, I'm gonna pick with body faces. I'm gonna pick that whole thing, mirror it across the ZX plane. I didn't see it up first. Okay. And of course, we're gonna name that left side. So I'm gonna go to rename, but this time I need a copy, so I'll do a paste. Left side, perimeter trim defined. Okay. So again, we're doing it with 2 little strips, and that is cutting right through where the other bottom of the excess flange wall has to be trimmed away. Okay. Now we're gonna make, here's where it is. It's an odd thing that we're doing here. We're gonna make one trimming piece that goes all the way around. We got the 2 long strip sides. We're gonna make one to chop off the top and the front. We're gonna make one to chop off the back here. And then we're gonna glue all those together. So it's a really weird thing, but it's gonna look like this when we're done. That's our trimming piece. So there's the 2 strips. There's where we chop off the front by the dash panel. There's where we chop off the back. Okay? And then that's pretty much the end of it, because then we just chop off the excess and it looks like that. So I'll quickly do these, because again, these are not anything tricky. Well, blending them together, gluing them all together, there's a visual thing that's hard to grasp. But it says, in the main slabs, you know, I wanna make something that's right at the top of this, but going across horizontally so I can chop it off. Because our part actually goes up above there right now, right? Our main slab stuff is, we overbuilt it, so it's up above it. We gotta chop it off right there. Okay, so we're gonna make a little extrude here that cuts right through that. We're gonna start by going to the law extension that we made a long time ago called dash panel surface, right? That was in the main shape, right there. There's a law extension. Of course, the law extension was added to everything else. So when I show it, it shows everything. Well, obviously, I want it before it was blended everything else. So I'm actually gonna turn it off again. And we're gonna do the old, sorry, not that one. We're gonna do the old extract body here. Okay? So it's just that piece. Why do I have that piece? Because, I'm gonna name it, copy of. Okay. actually, I was supposed to make that in the front perimeter trim, so I got that in the wrong spot. So here's front perimeter trim, and actually, two things I did wrong there. But I did on purpose, so you catch this. No. That thing right there called left side perimeter trim defined, that's supposed to be in left side perimeter trim. And it did let me drag it there, and it didn't reorder anything, that's good, so it's in there. And then that, the extracted thing is in its proper place in the tree. But what I was supposed to also do is in the front perimeter trim, which is right there, make that active. Again, to make this trimming piece, I want to intersect right along that top edge, so I'm going to create a plane. It says create a plane at a distance from the XY plane of the CSYS. So I'm going to do at distance. So I have you actually do a little measure here. So I need a plane that's going to be referencing XY, and then for the offset, I'm going to do a measure. And you can measure from the XY to the top edge right there. You gotta make sure you pick the edge. And it's 504. Is that right? Let's see. So 504, I'm just gonna cancel it. I'm just gonna type in 504. Yeah, that looks right. I mean, you can, it puts it above the XY because that's what I'm offsetting, but if you want to move it over here, you can do something like that. The point is, you want to verify that it's basically right where the top of that non-parametric edge is, right there. That looks good. That one could be associative though, it doesn't have to be honest. The last plane I made was non-associative, so remember to turn that back on or reset the window. So now that I've got that, and I've also got that extracted copy in the front perimeter trim, create an intersection curve, intersection, that extracted copy, and that plane, and then from that we're going to make just an extrude that's long enough to slice through the top of our part. So we make an extrude. Actually it says go 30 mils forward and 5 mils rearward. Sometimes I do tell you the numbers. Extrude that. But by default, it might not be extruding it in the right way because that's not a sketch, right? That's an intersection curve. By default, it just happens to be going in the Z direction. But we can go to specify vector and we can pick the X direction, okay? And it just needs to go, it says, I put on there 30 mils forward and 5 rearward. So, you know, which way is forward and rearward? Is that the start or the end? Sometimes you don't know until you start dragging. So as I'm dragging this one, that's the one that I'm gonna say is going rearward. It says, that should be 5. And then the other one then should be 30, but it's a negative, so I'm gonna do minus 30. Yeah, so see what I'm creating a little, not very big, but it's an extrude right here that we're gonna use to chop off excess material. Okay. So that's the front perimeter trim defined. The word defined is usually it's just a common way of naming things. That's really the final result of everything you were doing in that set, in that feature group. All this stuff was used to make the front perimeter trim. That last extrude I made, that's the front perimeter trim defined. Basically like saying, that's the finished piece, right? Then inside of rear perimeter trim, make it active. We're gonna make a piece here that chops off exactly at the back of this part. So what I'm gonna do is make a plane. Let's see, create a fixed datum plane that happens to be going right through the rear edge, but also parallel to YZ. All right, how do we do that? Go to the plane command, non-associative, because I'm gonna put it in the back of that. But I want it to be, if you do inferred, remember you can do this. I can say I want it parallel to that. And inferred is like, well, is that all you want? You can actually keep picking things. I also want it to go through that edge right there. So it's parallel to that and through that edge. Make it bigger if you want, or not, I'll just hit okay. Then, we're gonna get our old friend, the extracted body for the, cause I'm gonna make an intersection somewhere here, nice clean intersection, and then extrude it up. So remember our friend up here, the copy of the, extracted body there? Extracted body of the horizontal slab, because the horizontal slab, main slab, actually got consumed. So now that I got that, we're gonna make an intersection between those two. I'm trying to do these faster and faster, because I know you're going, come on, I know, let's get out of here. That thing. That thing, okay. Then we extrude that. And it should come up 180 and down -50. So we're going to the direction. Extrude that. Because it's not a sketch, we have to tell it what direction. Z direction. So let's see, what's that one? That's the end. So upward is my end, that's 180. And then downward will be -50. Okay, so that's, more than enough to go through the trimming, okay? So now, this is the one where you gotta do this visually, okay? I'm gonna actually hide this guy. We're gonna glue together those 4 things, those strips. Maybe I'm gonna hide all my curves too. View, hide, show, enough curves. Okay. Those 4 things, we're gonna glue them together. We're gonna join them together with blends because, let me show this real fast. Right up here, where we're gonna trim this, it comes across the top, and see how there's a radius right here? That's really what we're making. There's a radius there, where the top trimming piece meets this trimming piece. These 2 trimming pieces right here, this strip and that guy, that's right here, okay? And where they meet is gonna be a radius. Same thing on the other side. And actually back here is the same idea too, where that strip and this trimming piece meet is right here. So there's a radius there, okay? It is a 3 mil radius, so I just tell you that. But here's the thing we're gonna do, and I could start, I'm gonna work my way around. I can start here with the strip, I'm gonna hide this guy again. I can start with this strip and blend it to this, and then take that and blend it to this, and then blend that, right? Or I can start here and go this way, or start here and go that way. I tell you to do the front perimeter trim, it just says to do all 4 of them. You could start at whichever one you want, but here's the thing. If I go to face blend, okay, it tells you in the instructions, go to the settings, where it says trim, and set this to short. Okay. Now that's one of those settings that occasionally you need that, but it's kind of buried. And I'm just giving you like a little warning. If I do this, and it works great for what I'm doing now, and then I hit okay, and then I go to make a face blend again later and somewhere else, that'll still be on that setting, and it might not be what I want. So face blend, because it does have a lot of hidden settings that you might have messed with, it's a good idea to reset it every time you go into it, because the too short is not the default, all right? So anyway, it's set to too short, and I'll sort of explain what I mean by that. I'm gonna pick the first face, and I have it on body faces. Here, that's the one strip, that's my right side. And as I mentioned, this is where it gets tricky. We're trying to match, again, right here is where I'm blending these 2 together. I'm gonna pick this guy and that guy, okay, trimming pieces. It's supposed to be like this. I know I have the non-parametric body hidden, but there's a corner right here we're trying to get to. So that means it's coming up from here, right? And then the second face is gonna come down from there. Like that. Okay, it's a preview right there. You kind of see the preview. But, and that is what I want. Right there is exactly what I want, except it's supposed to be 3 mils. And even that, see that? I didn't reset the window, so it still remembers the last thing I used in the radius. And it was a expression. And if you're wondering, how do you get rid of expression? If you go here to make constant, that means it's just a number. And then you can type in a 3. So it's a 3. But I'm gonna hit this preview to show you something. That's what it's gonna look like. If you do it correctly, that's what it's gonna look like. Right, in my instructions, I sort of show you that right there. It's still tricky. You try to look at that and go, is that what he's showing me? It's kinda hard to tell. But that is, okay? But that's called, too short. Just so you know, if I have this, sometimes it doesn't even work. If you have it too all, see what it's doing, it's making a blend, but it's going not just the width of this surface, it's also going to the width of because the blend is between two surfaces. And it's extending it all the way to that surface. But I'm thinking, I really don't need it all the way over there. I only need the blend right there. So in other words, where there's a blend, there's a long surface and a short surface. I only need it to go to the extent of the short surface, this one. That's good enough. That's what that means, all right? If I hit okay, funny as it looks, that's what I want. That's correct. Now again, I'm gonna make another one. There's actually 3 altogether. In that case, I added this side to the front here. I'm gonna start with that one again. It's that whole thing. This time I'll go to the other side. I could've went to the back, but I'm gonna go to the other side, over here, add this one. Make sure it's on body faces, okay? And it's the same thing here, if you can visualize this. It's rounding it off like this. So it's gonna go up. Go down. Up from that one. Oh, actually, no, well, wait a minute. Oh, you know what, I picked them both in the same set, sorry. I'm thinking, why is there only one arrow? I gotta start over, I didn't go to the correct. Pick that as my first one, then make sure you go to select phase 2, and then pick the new one, okay? And let's preview that, is that right? Yep, that's right. And that's another thing, sometimes you gotta flip those arrows around to get the right one. It's tricky, I'm just gonna say it's flat out, it's tricky, so then I hit okay. Now the last one might be a little easier because that's all one now. So if I make the last face blend and I pick either one of these sides, it goes all the way around. Right, so when I add this, because they intersect in 2 places, it's gonna make 2 fillets. And once again, if I showed the original part, down at the bottom, it's sort of rounded off like this, that little flange. It's really just the bottom of the flange, just like this. So it's gonna go up from these, and do it right this time, pick that one. Now this looks like, oh, it's not gonna work, right? But it says, blends are constructed in multiple locations for a single non-associated blend. Specify a point near the blend to keep. Well, it's what I just told you. It's hitting in 2 places, and it's just letting me know, maybe you didn't want, do you know it's hitting in 2 places? You really want that? If you do want it, just ignore that message. Just hit okay. See, it made a blend here, right there, and it made a blend there. Okay. And now, believe it or not, I'm just about done. One last step. That's our trimming piece, by the way. Did I put that in the right spot? Actually, I should have done those in perimeter trim itself. So let me do this. Let's see the intersection curves. That extrude was, so the 3 face blends, they should not be in rear perimeter trim. They should just be in perimeter trim. So watch, let's see if I can do it. Grab those 3, drag them, set them on perimeter trim, right on top. And yep, there they are. Of course, that time it did move. Oh, no, it didn't put them in there. Where did it put them? See, that's why it's tricky. There's the 3 face blends. No, they're still on the right side of perimeter trim. I don't know why I didn't put them in perimeter trim. Let me do it again. Oh, you know what? I think I have to update the end. That's what it was. I didn't have my last feature current. So I want those 3 to be in perimeter trim. Now they're in perimeter trim, but they're after or before these guys. So see, that's what I mean. It's a good idea. Try to remember if you're in the right spot when you make it active before you do this, because then it starts doing this kind of thing. So let's see if I can drag this. I mean, it's not critical what I'm trying to do here, but after that, move that one up there. That's better. That's what I really wanted. So I got each individual perimeter trim piece. then when I blend them together, that's in the overall perimeter trim. Okay. Now that I've got that, oh, that's the last one's supposed to be perimeter trim defined. Okay. Then it says one more feature group. Make sure the last feature is current, okay. One more feature group called final part. And it's at the top of the history, it's at the top level of the history, so I don't have to pick a different pairing, which means it's at the bottom, okay. So we're gonna do a feature group, make it active, cause I'm gonna create something in there. What did I just do? I don't know what I did, I clicked on something, it moved it, I think I double clicked. So that's active, I'm about to create one more thing, it's a trim sheet, right? I have the final form before trim that I've had hidden for a long time. That's my piece that's overbuilt. Right now, the sill weld flanges are, that's still extra material that I wanna trim away. If I put everything in the right spot, I should be able to do this. Go to surface, go to trim sheet. The target is my form, it's that, okay? And by the way, when you're doing a trim sheet, it actually says select sheet body. This only works for sheet body, so there's no curve, or there's no face rule or body rule. It is only gonna allow me to pick an entire sheet body, but that's what I want, it's that. And then the boundary, now the boundary can be individual things, it can be faces or whatnot, so there is a face rule there. If I have it on body faces, and I pick part of my trim piece, this is actually all of one sheet body, remember that funny looking thing? It's all one. If I pick that, I got a message here. Might have made something too short.
Your left side tunnel doesn't look like it fully intersects.
Yeah, that could be right there. I made it exact where it was. I didn't do that on purpose. When I told you to do it in my instructions, I actually had you overbuild it beyond that. And I didn't do this on purpose, but actually, I'm glad this happened. That is what's happening. It's, my trim piece is trying to trim that sheet body, but it says, well, it doesn't know what to do right there, right? So, okay. So I'd have to think, well then, why is that too short? And it actually goes way back. I should be able to fix this, no problem. Should go way back to non-timestamp geometry. I got some lines, just 6 of them. I can unpack those, and I can start showing some of them. There's a line down here, I think. Not that one. And now that I think of it, this thing gets populated kind of backwards. So, yep, I think that's it right there. That line, if I edit it, just drag it, like about there. I hit OK. Everything should update fine. Now I got more material back there. I'll try exactly what I just tried a second ago. Trim sheet. That's the target. Body faces, that's the tool. I don't see any messages this time. But when you're doing a trim sheet, you do gotta be aware, I don't remember if I talked about this in earlier classes or if I did very much. There's, excuse me, when you pick the target, the trimming, whatever you're trimming it with, has to divide the target into 2 different regions, okay? Because you're trimming it to get rid of one of the regions. And sometimes you don't know, like I think I did pick it inside here, so that was my selected region. But a good little thing to check is, go down here where it says select region, and that must be where I clicked when I picked the target. I clicked inside, I didn't click out here, I clicked inside. But you notice it says for the region you selected, it's gonna discard that region. If I leave it like it is, that must be what I did last time. If I leave it like it is, it's gonna get rid of that piece and keep the other region, which is the outside. It would just keep that, which it'll do it. I don't wanna do that. I wanna get rid of the outside and keep the inside. So I have a choice actually. I could pick it again, start over, pick it in here, or I could say, no, for the selected region, I wanna keep that side. Right? You can also do a preview, but if I hit OK, there it is. It trimmed all the outside and the bottom, the top, the front, the back, and the 2 sides. I still have the trimming piece showing. It doesn't hide it. I'm gonna hide it. And now I finally have my overall finished part. You can see I still got some sketches showing, but this is my surface. This isn't that gray one. This is mine. The one that's all parametric and it's trimmed right where the sketches were and everything. I'm pretty much done, but I could, hide sketches, like planes, okay. Curves. And if I show, I can actually, wait, what happened there? Oh, that's that other, I'll just hide that guy by itself. That was that extracted body I made. And then I'll just for visual purposes, I'll turn on the non-parametric one and see, they're pretty much right on top of each other. Okay? And that's it. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot one more thing. Gotta name it. Floor pan defined. So, that's our floor pan. That's all we're doing with it, to create it, for now. Okay? Next few sessions, we're gonna add cross members, where the seats get connected to. There's a cross member here, a cross member there. We're gonna borrow information from these guys. And then after we make the cross members, we're gonna realize, you know what, we gotta change the design a little bit, so the floor plan's gonna change. And that means the cross members are gonna have to change, so if we do we're gonna make all these links and things like that, if we do it right, we change the cross member, we hit update or I should say we change the floor plan and we update, you know, the cross members change correctly, if we do it right. Now I'm gonna save everything. I keep saying this every time and I'm gonna keep repeating it. I wanna make sure I saved everything. Best way is, if you're in an assembly, make the top of the assembly the work part, double click it. And then if you hit just a regular save, it says saves the work part and any modified components. The work part is the bold one. So that way, if I did change something in the assembly, or any parts in there, it would have saved everything. Okay? Pretty simple, huh? It's kind of a cumbersome exercise. A lot of little things that you're wondering, why are we doing this? I don't get it. Well, that's why I try to say, well, let me show you why we're doing it before I get into all the detail. And yes, you're gonna be looking at some of my instructions and going, what is he trying to say there? But you can always send me an email or ask me now if you're working on it now. Okay?